Dana here. Welcome to Sew, Learn, Create. I'm glad you joined us today. Today's project is a magnetic bookmark pen holder. So it's made with a magnet, and the magnet can go around your pages, hold your spot, but also hold your pen. So let's get started. For today's project, the magnetic bookmark holder, you'll need the following supplies. You'll need 2 pieces of fabric that are 2.5 inches by 5 inches, one for your outer, one for your lining. You'll need some magnets, and I use the magnetic strips. They do have adhesive on them, but they don't need that necessarily. Mine just come with it. And I buy mine at my local big box store, but you could buy them at any craft store, that kind of thing. And I'll talk more about those in a minute. And then you'll also need a pen. And I'm using a pen that is a round barrel because it is a little more narrow and it fits in the space right here that we have for the pen holder. So the first thing we need to do is take our fabrics, and we're going to turn them right side to right side. So pretty side to pretty side. And we're going to leave an opening at the bottom to insert our magnets. So I'm going to use my red and green clip system, where I'm going to start at green because that means go, stitch all the way around, and stop at red. And I like to clip my projects on every side so that when I go to the machine, my fabrics don't slip on me. So let's go to the machine. Now we're going to stitch all the way around our bookmark, and we're going to start at our green clip, go all the way around, and we're going to leave an opening here. And you want that opening to be about 1 inch or a little more because you need space to put in those magnets. So we're going to start here at the green. I'm going to use the edge of my foot and line up my fabric and use that as my seam allowance. When you come to the corner, you're going to leave your needle down, lift your presser foot, and turn your project and keep going. And then remember, I'm going to stop at my red. I'm going to remove that clip, and I kind of put my finger there just to remind me where I'm going to stop. And I'm going to back stitch just a little bit at that opening. Well, then we'll go back to the mat, and I'll show you the next step. Now we've stitched all the way around and we've left an opening right here. The first thing I do is I turn my project over and make sure that I've caught all my fabric and I don't have any holes, because now is the time to fix it. So then the next thing we want to do is we want to clip our corners diagonally, and we're just reducing that bulk in the corner, but we want to make sure that we don't clip our stitching. Clip all 4 corners. And then we're going to turn it right side out. And you want to turn it gently to make sure you don't rip your stitching, because if you rip your stitching, then you have to turn it wrong side out and fix that. So always turn it gently. It's not very big, so it doesn't take a lot. And then I use a chopstick to poke out my corners. So again, you want to use that and poke them out gently because you don't want to poke a hole in your stitching. And reducing that bulk helps make those corners nice and at a right angle and not rounded off. So it squares them off really nicely. All right. And then the next thing you want to do is you want to take and you want to press your project. By ironing your project before you stitch it, especially top stitching, it just makes everything lay nicer and it makes it look a little nicer. And I wanted to make sure that when I pressed, that fabric where I left my opening turned in. So when I top stitch it all the way around, then it will close that up nicely. So the next thing you need to do is cut your magnets. The magnets I'm using are a medium level magnet. A level 1 magnet is not as strong and would not work well for this project because it would have a tendency to slide down your paper rather than grip it. So you need a level 2 or 3. And the magnets I have come in strips, and if you see, you can see there's 6 strips. And I'm going to use 2 of those rather than 1 because 2 is just about the right width for what I need. And I'm going to cut it. I've got a top stitch, so I need to leave about 1/8 of an inch at the top and 1/8 of an inch at the bottom. So my magnet needs to be about, let's see, I'm going to cut it at 1 1/4 inches. And that gives me a little bit of room on the inside so I don't stitch that. I'll take my pencil, mark it at 1 1/4 inches, and then I'm going to mark a second one at 1 1/4 inches. And then you don't want to use your good sewing scissors to cut your magnet. You just want to use a good paper scissors and just cut it right off. Now my magnets have an adhesive, and I'm going to use that adhesive to my advantage since it's there. It's not necessary, but since the ones I purchased have that, I'm going to go ahead and use that. So I'm going to put my magnets inside my bookmark, and I'm going to put the adhesive side towards the lining. You slide them in. This is a little bit tricky with that adhesive, and you're going to push them to one end and then the other end. So my first one, I'm going to push it. Like I say, with that adhesive, it makes it a little tricky until you get it in place. And I want it to go to the end, but I don't want it to go all the way to the end because we are going to stitch around that. So I'm leaving a little bit of space here, and then we can adjust it once we get it top stitched. And then I'm just putting it in place. So peel the adhesive off on this one. Again, my sticky part is going to go towards my lining, and I'm going to insert this one in and push it towards the other end. Here's my first magnet, and my other magnet's going down this direction. And again, I'm not pushing it all the way to the end because we are going to top stitch, and I want to make sure it's kind of centered so when I top stitch it doesn't catch that magnet. Now the important thing is you want to make sure before you stitch that those magnets do not repel, because remember, magnets, you want to make sure they stick. Because if they repel, then you need to turn your magnets the other direction. And mine are sticking. Okay? So then I'm going to go back to the machine and I'm going to stitch all the way around. So let's go to the machine. As I said earlier, always check your magnets and make sure they are not repelling. And when I double checked mine before I came to the machine, mine were repelling, so I'm having to turn my magnets and put the sticky adhesive side towards my top fabric, and then they're working. So I'm going to put this one back in, work it down to this end. So always double check it a couple of times before you come to the machine to stitch. Straighten it up here a little. Okay, so I still have room at the end and on the sides to stitch all the way around. So now I'm going to start stitching close to just above where my opening is, and I'm going to use the inside of my foot, which gives me about 1/8 of an inch as my guide, and that'll close up that opening really nice. So we're just going to top stitch all the way around, and you want to kind of go slow, making sure your magnet is not in the way. And if it is, just kind of shift it around. Again, come to the corner, leave your needle down, lift and turn, and keep going. Making sure that magnet's out of the way. Lift and turn. Magnet's not in the way for sure. And go right back. When I come back to this stitching, I'm going to cross it just a little bit and back stitch. Clip all my threads. Now I'm going to take and I'm just going to kind of wiggle that magnet down to the very end. And because of that adhesive, you might have to kind of pull your fabric up a little bit and wiggle it down to the very end of the bookmark inside that stitching, and do that on both ends. And you could leave the paper on the magnet and not expose the adhesive, but I kind of like it because it does help it stay in place a little bit. And since I have it, I wouldn't want that paper peeling off after I'd used my bookmark for a while. But it does take a little bit to finagle. There we go. Now I'm going to fold my bookmark in half, and from the fold I'm going to measure about 5/8 of an inch, and I'm going to draw a line. And I'm going to stitch on that line, and it should put your magnets to where they are really right. Your foot is right on the edge of the magnet, and it should stitch right down that line. I'm going to stitch to the end. When I get to the end, I'm not going to go all the way off the edge. I'm going to turn, and I'm going to go right back down that stitching one more time. And then I'm going to back stitch at the end. And that just gives that space for your pen a little reinforcement. So I'm going to clip my threads, insert my pin, and my magnet bookmark is complete. I hope you liked today's project, the Magnetic Bookmark. And if you did, be sure you like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out. So, see you in the next one.